And Detective Stoddard uses a term of, the investigations are always fluid. And I think that's, a code word for, yes, things may be different now than they were then.
And then, Cathy, if you don't mind, because I want to make sure we both sound the right volume, just maybe turn down your volume one notch or two.
Okay, is that any better?
Is that better, Anthony? Okay, we're good. So very interesting, because if, like you said, people that have been closely following this case since it first happened back in June of 2014, remember hearing Phil Stoddard, the lead detective, from that preliminary hearing where he went through the evidence. And now it's interesting what Cathy is saying. He's not quite as declarative on some of what he found, which I find very interesting that Cathy made that statement. And I also think it leaves open for the defense to use some of his prior statements from the preliminary hearing against him, basically to say, okay, so why have you changed your opinion, and leave some doubt in the jury's mind about that.
We're expecting some fireworks on cross-exam.
Yes. So let's go, because I think today was important, but I think even more important was what we heard on Friday. So, Cathy, what we're going to do right now is just play a minute or so clip. The first clip, Anthony, which will be the actual interview that Justin Ross Harris did. This was the day that he was taken into custody back in June of 2014 when he was interviewed by police detectives. Basically, they were asking him at the time, why did you do this? Take a listen to his response.
I don't know if I'm just saying that's what we're doing today. Is it just going to work? So I never think of confidence. And I just watched the news reports. There was a news report of a guy who did this, just like me. And now he's an advocate for when you park, you turn around and look at you. And I've been doing that because the worst fear from that for me is to leave my son in a hot car. And then just recently there was a vet on the internet who said, even if you got your windows rolled down, and regardless, I'm going to show you how hot it can get in the car. You think you can just leave your pets in the car, roll your windows down. You can't do that. I watched that. That'd be terrible. If my son was in the car, I would hate that. When I was working for Justice Police, we had a hearing officer. He was selling for 10 minutes. Without being session immediately on us. Had the windows up. But so that happened. So I'm aware. I just can't believe.
Okay, so we were just listening to a police interview tape, Cathy, and those that are joining us, that was played Friday afternoon when Justin Ross Harris is questioned by Cobb County police detectives in that small little interview room. Some very interesting things happened. This particular section was talking about, how Justin Ross Harris was talking about how this was something he worried about, and that he'd actually seen something like this on TV, and he can't believe he's that man. And then he also referenced, this veterinarian, I guess he had seen on the internet, who talked about how hot it gets with dogs in the car. Now, when I saw this for the first time, the first thing that went into my mind is, oh, that's really different than how I initially heard the story of him somehow proactively looking for how long does it take for a dog to die of heat in the car. What did you think of his testimony overall on Friday, and then specifically regarding his comments about hot cars?
Well, boy, Friday is just full of, if you haven't seen the police interview, go back and watch that, because strange behavior is maybe how I would title Friday. As far as the hot car death, that's just another example of what we were led to believe, as in the viewers were led to believe 2 years ago, that he actively searched for how long does it take for, and it was sometimes reported an animal or a person or a human to die in a hot car. And that, you're right, that again, that is something that how Detective Stoddard testified about it, and how it really was a little bit out of context. He was just saying things like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this. I even watched something on this where a vet did a demonstration, and he sat in a hot car, and it was all about, you can't leave your pets in the car. I watched that, it's my greatest fear, which people think that statement's really weird. My greatest fear was that this would happen. But it appears that it was just recently on his mind, and that's maybe why that came up in that context.
So I have a little theory about this, Cathy, because I watched the whole thing too, and I agree that his behavior was totally weird. You see him kind of work himself up, and then all of a sudden he's hysterical, and then his answers to the cops were strange. They were a little shifty, and it seemed to me like he had something to hide when I was watching it. However, my inclination, and I don't know if you'd agree with this, Cathy, is that he was scared that the cops would start looking into his personal life, and that he had kind of a dark side or a dirty little secret he didn't want them to find out about, and perhaps that's why he was acting weird, not the fact that he knew he had intentionally done this. What's your take?
Well, that really depends on what mindset you're coming from when you're watching that interview, right? Mm-hmm. So if you believe that he intentionally wanted to kill Cooper in that manner, then it looks like he is being shifty and not truthful. But if you believe that he truly forgot Cooper was in there, then it looks like, they're going to find out a lot more about what I was doing, at least during that period of time. Also, you have to remember, he used to be a police dispatch. He has a little bit of background. His brother is a police officer. So if you watch his interview from just kind of a neutral position, you just go back and forth on what you really believe in this case, because it's so strange. And then at other times I would think, well, he talks like that, uses a little bit of legal jargon or things like that because of his background, and now this is the first time in his life, he's never been arrested for anything. This is the first time in his life that he's sitting there being questioned. He also maybe is in shock about what's happened with Cooper, and also, I can't put my finger on it, but there's something off about him, and I don't know the word off, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, there's something different about him. If you don't believe he's a murderer, and we know about his little sexting stuff, but there's something different about him, that the over searching and Googling anything and everything, I can't quite pinpoint it, but when I watched the interview with him, if I watch it from a defense point of view, then I sort of see how he's an over-explainer. He's a look how much research I've done guy. He's that kind of thing.
So, Cathy, I also wanted to play a short clip from Friday as well, because I think, again, that was a big day for this trial. It was towards the end of the police interview tape when his wife, now ex-wife, Leanna, went into the police interview room. A very emotional moment. Take a look if you hadn't seen it already.
Oh,
Do we need to get you a lawyer? Yeah. I said, it's not like I went to the grocery store. I said, oh, it's going to be fine. I'm just going to go in for 30 minutes.
Did you say too much?
I thought it was all the evidence of that. And then they asked me if I was going to be charged. I told him, I said, I don't like representation. I said, I was not, if I'm going to be charged, I was not.
So this is a really interesting moment, and as we were watching it, I was watching some of the Facebook comments go in, and a lot of people were noting how he went from really calm to hysterical, and they were also talking about Leanna's demeanor, how she was like almost overcompensating, like really trying to console him, kind of playing almost a motherly type figure to try to make him feel better. What did you take away from this, Cathy? I'm just putting on so I can hear you.
My gosh, it is seriously the strangest thing I have ever watched. Because I don't understand these two. I don't understand these two parents at all. And some people think Leanna was in on this and wanted Cooper dead as well. I don't believe that. That's my personal opinion. Is I don't think she had anything to do with this, whether it was intentional or not. I don't think she had anything to do with it. So coming from that opinion, I don't get her reaction. As a mother myself, I don't get it. And I understand everybody's different and she could be in shock. But neither one of them, by the way, say his name. They never say Cooper.
Right, and why isn't she upset? I mean, I get it, she's consoling him, but like if my 2-year-old son had just died, I'd be hysterical.
Well, listen, if this was me, I love my husband, I would have walked into that interview room and just, what were you thinking? How could you do this? Something. I would be completely distraught.
The dynamic between the two is very, very strange, and it's obvious, at least to me, well, I don't know, it doesn't appear at that point that Leanna knows about his kind of dirty other sex life that he's been having going on, because that would be my first question, right? If I knew about my husband cheating on me, I'd say, what the hell were you doing? Were you off cheating with a woman when this happened? I'd be really, really pissed, and you just don't see any of that from her. And again, a lot of commenters that are on our Facebook page also think she's faking. Not she's faking, that he's faking. I don't know. His emotion seems pretty genuine to me, but again, the jury will have to decide that. What did you make about his emotion?
Well, I will say that I'm just telling you, I honestly can't come out of that whole interview with an opinion. That's how confusing it is to me. But that's true for a lot of people. One of our chatters in our chat room said this morning, I have never been so back and forth in a case before. And these are experienced trial watchers. And we can't make heads or tails of this. Now, he looks genuinely hysterically upset when Leanna comes in. But then if you're on the prosecution side, is he more upset for himself? He's, because a lot of his talk was about himself. And why did this happen to me? And now I'm going to get fired. And everything's about him. So is that where the hysteria comes from when he sees Leanna? Because neither one of them talk that much about their son.
Yeah, they don't say, oh God, Cooper, 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 Cooper. You don't hear that from them. All you hear is, you're going to be fine, and it's a bit hard to make out sometimes, but again, he's crying hysterically and she's comforting him. The interaction's very bizarre. I think everyone's pinpointing that when they've been commenting on our Facebook page. One person, Nina Meditz, commented, who worries about getting fired at a time like this? I think those are all things you would think over in your mind as you realize your life is over. They think he sounds very narcissistic. I'm just reading through some of the Facebook comments we're getting. So it's puzzling to me, and I think you, Cathy, about how this is going to play for the jury, how they're going to interpret what happened. And I guess it all depends on whether or not they buy into the prosecution's theory that he really, really did mean to kill his child. Because as you said, if you come at it with that mindset, then of course you're going to see his actions in a different light. Now, I'm curious, you said this morning you've polled some of your court watchers, some of your trial watchers, about if they've changed their mind in terms of guilt or innocence. What did you find?
Yeah, okay. I just want to give a shout out to one of our longtime chatters, Denise, put together this survey. And just taking a poll of all different questions about this case, how you felt before the case, how do you feel right now, and what do you think about guilt and not guilt on each of the counts, which is very interesting. And I'm just telling you that if this is it mimics at all what the jury is thinking, then it's going to be a hung jury on the murder charges. But on the murder charges, they're about 46% and 41% guilty and not guilty. And now on the sexting charges, it's like 90% guilty.
So is it 40% guilty?
About that.
Kathy, is it 40% guilty? Your trial watchers say 40% guilty or 41% not guilty?
On count one, that's 46% guilty, 41%. Oh, no, let me tell, I quoted that wrong. It's not guilty, okay? So right now it's 46% guilty, 11% not guilty, and 41% undecided. That's why I say the hung jury thing.
Gotcha. Okay, so it seems like a large majority of folks are still undecided when it comes to this case. And again, you know, Kathy, a lot of your trial watchers are pro-prosecution to begin with, so I think that's particularly interesting that you're at this point in the game only seeing 46% guilty, because we're now on day 12 or 13 of the trial. The prosecution has had ample opportunity, in my opinion, to present their case of why they think Justin Ross Harris committed murder, and it's interesting to see your viewers so divided in terms of guilt and innocence. And perhaps we'll do our own poll on Law Newz as well, because I'd be interested to see what folks believe in this time right now. So again, Kathy, what else are you going to be looking at for this afternoon? I suspect we'll see some cross-examination by the defense.
Maybe. I don't know how long this is going to go with Stoddard. I think he'll still be on tomorrow for probably all of the day. So I don't know if direct will end today and they'll get to cross or not. But that's what I'm waiting for, is the cross-examination. I have been listening very closely to the direct, because I wanted to see, you know, what exactly is true, or at least what they're willing to put in front of the jury now versus what was put out there during the probable cause hearing. You have to remember, the jury doesn't know the differences, however, expect the defense to bring up the differences. And so I expect that they may get across this afternoon, actually, because we're almost to the end of Detective Stoddard on direct, because they may save some for redirect. I'm just telling you, the police interview, when Leanna Harris testifies, and Detective Stoddard, those are my three big ones that I wanted to watch, paid very close attention to in this trial. And I'm up in the air. I'm up in the air.
And we don't know at this point if Leanna's going to be called by the prosecution or defense. Honestly, I'd heard rumors that both sides might call her. So I think she will go on the stand, and I'll be particularly interested in what she has to say as well. Kathy from Court Chatter, thank you so much for joining us. Great website, courtchatter.com. Law Newz and Court Chatter work a lot together. So we appreciate you joining us for this lunch break. Of course, we will continue to live stream the Justin Ross Harris case. They're in a lunch break right now. As soon as it kicks back up, we'll be live streaming it on Facebook and livestream.com. Thanks so much, and thanks again, Kathy, for joining us.
Thank you.